Hello, so in this tutorial I'll show you what is the relationship between the XML files that we created in the previous tutorials in the Hibernate objects and in the Ibatis objects related with the UI. So we can see if what happened in the XML file when we make the changes in our design editors. So very simple, very fast. This should be a very simple video. Let's just log in our framework, choose the advanced workspace, the corresponding projects. Let's click here advanced items so we can see our data access layer. Currently in our Hibernate data access layer and in our Ibatis data access layer we don't have any files yet, so let's just create a few files based in this tables diagram that we are seeing here. So in order to do that, so all of these we have done this before in the previous tutorials. So we just do the create objects automatically, we choose from diagram, we click next, we can select all, we do continue. Okay, and the same thing here, create queries automatically from diagram, again we select everything and next. Okay, so we have here in the Ibatis we have here the correspondent files with the correspondent queries, and in the Hibernate the correspondent files with the correspondent data access objects which with the correspondent relationships. So let's open the correspondent object, the school objects, where we can see the advanced items, and let's open this file in the new tab so you can see what items corresponds to what. So if I open in the new tab, I can just press Ctrl and then click in the schools item here, or I can just come here and do edit file and click Ctrl, which will open automatically a new tab. So what we have here in our XML, we have the name of the object and the name of the table. So the name of the object and the name of the table. We have here, then I can see I have an ID with the name school ID, and that's a primary key. So I can see that I have here the school ID, which is the primary key. Perfect. So currently whatever the changes I do here, it will replicate correspondently in these fields that I show you here. Now below we have the relationships. So if I go to the relationships part in the advanced settings, as I showed you before here, advanced settings, if I let me minimize these two, if I scroll down I can see that I have two relationships which are one-to-many, one with the name school student child and another one school teacher child. So if I go to my XML file, I see one-to-many, two relationships, one school student's child, another school teacher child's. Now inside of each of them I can see that I have attributes. So I have here my attributes for the first relationships, which is these attributes here, and then I have the keys, this key which is in here. The same thing happens in the next relationship. So I have the attributes here and one key. So I have four attributes. The same thing here, I have the key and the four attributes, the four correspondent attributes. So basically whatever the changes I do in my design editor or whatever the changes I do in my XML file, it's everything synchronized. So basically what we have here in our design editor, it's that it reads the XML file, it converts to an editor of no code. These same relationships can be achievable here through this UI. So whatever the changes I made here, it will change automatically in the correspondent relationship. So this is a relationship one-to-many, school student child, which corresponds to this relationship here, three attributes and the key, a key and the three attributes. As you can see, is very straightforward. So this is related with the relationships. This is related with the Hibernate object. This Hibernate object doesn't have any query. So we can just I can show you an example. If I just create a few queries for, well, it doesn't have queries or maps. So let's just create a few queries and maps so you can see what are the differences with the design editor and XML file. So I just click here update, automatically it created me the corresponding queries. I have here a bunch of queries that I have here. So if I scroll down, I can see a bunch of queries, and I can see that I have some maps too and some result maps. So the XML file, if I refresh it, I will get already a new node, XML node called queries, where I will have the correspondent parameter maps and the correspondent result maps, and then the correspondent queries. These are inserted queries, update queries, the delete queries, and then all the select queries. So this is basically, I can see the results map here. So ID, the results map, all the maps have an ID, and then they have the correspondence attribute to attribute. That's what I have here, attribute to another attribute. So I have the input name and the output name. I have the input type and the output type. I have if it is mandatory or not. So which is exactly what I have here in this UI for each result map. The same thing happens in the parameters maps. I have an ID, and then I have the attributes, the input name, the input type, the output name, the output type, and if it is mandatory, exactly the same thing. So as we can see here in the parameters map, input name, input type, output name, output type, and mandatory is exactly the same thing. Related with the queries, if I go to my queries, I have multiple types of queries. I have insert, update, delete, select. So that's what I have here. I have the inserts, the updates, the deletes, where each of them have an ID, where I can see here the correspondent ID, which is the name. And then I could have other attributes. Currently they don't appear here because they are not filled here, but if I fill any of those, automatically it will appear in here. And then I have the value, the correspondent SQL, which is inside, which is the value inside of each of these nodes. So let's say that, well, as a matter of fact, I have an example here where I'm showing a result map. So this query here, this select query, has a parameter map and a result map. Let me show you here. This was the select, so this is the delete, select. So here it is, a select. I have the ID get school, which is this one here, the ID get school, and then I have a parameter map ID, school parameter map, and the result map ID, the school result map. So that's exactly what I have here. Basically, this is just to show you how can you edit the XML file, or changing the design editor, what are the changes that it makes in the XML file. That's it, very simple. This is in Hibernate. If we go to the Ibatis, let's open again this in another tab. So we just control and click it open. This is now the Ibatis, where in here what I have is I just have the queries part. So I don't have any Hibernate objects, I don't have any relationships. What I have here simply is just the queries, insert queries, update queries, delete queries, and all the select queries. So every time that I open here a query, let's click in this one, example, I have the type, I have the ID, which is the name, which is in here, the ID. So this one that we open calls get school student child, which is this one here. And then I have the correspondent value, which is the SQL, which is in here. If I wanted to have some parameters maps or result maps too, it appears exactly the same as I showed you before in the other XML file. So in here I will have some other attributes with the correspondent parameters and result maps. So let's say that in here I'll put this is P1. It doesn't exist, but let's say that exists, and in here will be the R1. So automatically when I refresh this guy here, if it already saved by default, which did, I can see here that it adds to this query, the get school student child, it adds these two attributes. So if I change here to, let's say, R2, and in here I'll just delete this, I can just delete the value or delete the entire parameter. This is just an example. If then I refresh this page here, I can see that, well, it didn't save. Or it saved. Okay, it's saved. Now if I refresh this, I can see that it's not here anymore, the parameter that I deleted, and the result was changed to R2. So this is just an example, a simple example. Additionally, every time in the queries that you see something like this, let me show you. So in the conditions, the same thing, something like this, which is a string which is encapsulated with the hash symbol. So everything that you have, hash symbol, some name, hash symbol, it means that it will try to look for that value in the input object. So if the input object it is an array, it will try to find what is the value for that corresponding key. So I'm putting school_id, so it'll try to find on that input the key school_id and replace this string with that corresponding value. If it is an object that I'm passing as an input, we'll try to find the school_id as a property of that object. So basically, this is a very simple way. Every time that I call a query, this is a very simple way of creating queries that I can pass the corresponding inputs. So this gives me the ability of doing a bunch of different stuffs. Example, as we can see here, this is a dynamic condition where I can pass here whatever the SQL that I want to, so I can extend my SQL. Of course that this, in this case, it can bring some security issues, but it's just an example how to show you that you can do multiple things with this, depending. So you are the person that creates the query, so you are the person that decides what will be the corresponding inputs. So basically this tutorial was just to show you whatever the changes that you do in the design editor, what are the reflections that actions do in the XML file. So basically what we have here is a code reader. We read the XML files and show you in what you see, what you get editors. We show you in the no code editors. That's it. Thank you very much.